Welcome back to Secure AI Now, a podcast hosted by the Alliance for Secure AI. I'm your host, Brendan Steinhauser. And today I'm thrilled to have our guest, Jeff Starr. He's a friend of the Alliance, and he is COO of the AI Policy Network, an organization working very hard in DC and around the country to help us secure AI. They're fighting for AI safety and meaningful legislation in Congress to protect American citizens from all potential harms of AI. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Brendan, thank you. Thank you and your team for what you guys do. Really appreciate it, and I'm glad to join you today.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. I know that we've been working together for a bit. We've been talking about this issue for a long time now. So I wanted to just have you on to talk a little bit about your background and kind of how you got involved in this community. You've got an interesting background, and I know that you've got some very sincere motivation in getting involved in AI safety and security. So can you just kind of introduce yourself to our viewers and to people that are interested in the topic? Tell us a little bit more about your background, kind of where you come from, what you studied, and a little bit about your professional career.
Yeah, thank you, Brendan. Well, so I was born in Texas. This accent comes from Texas. I'm in the Bay Area now, but I started there. Grew up, went to Texas A&M University, got an engineering degree, ended up in the management consulting world in Houston, and from there kind of got into big company software. So I had a, almost 30-year career in business-to-business software, think accounting systems, supply chain systems, and that's really where that was the balance of my professional career, including having my own software company. I'm married for 32 years, three grown daughters now, and I got into the AI policy world. I mean, like a lot of people in our space, I think I'd done some reading. Like I said, I've got 2 engineering degrees, one from A&M, one from Dartmouth. And I've been attuned to technology my whole career. I've started technology companies. And I read a bit about AI. I don't know, the book Superintelligence, you'll find a lot of people in our space that were influenced by that. Another, some posts called Wait But Why, also sort of set my mind to be ready and attuned to trends in this space. And then when ChatGPT happened, it grabbed me by the lapels, and I frankly decided this is going to determine the future, and there are some risks here for my kids, frankly, for my family. And I will tell anybody that I meet, including senators and congressmen, this is why I am doing this. I want them to know that I'm doing this for that reason. I left a commercial career to do this. This is not natural for me. I mean, you've kind of watched me grow up over the last 2 years, Brenda, to learn what I have about how Washington works. And it's not really a natural motion for somebody who's been in the commercial world for years. So I'm doing it for them. And to me, they also represent the future of our country. They're my personal future of this country. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing it. Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it is interesting how many people I've met in this space that come from different backgrounds. There's a lot of liberal arts students, there's attorneys, there's engineers, computer scientists, mathematicians, teachers, doctors. Like, there's a lot of diversity in this field. I think what does bring people together is just this true concern for the future of humanity. And it sounds like kind of a nebulous idea, but not really. When you think about, as you pointed out, people have, their friends, their family, they think about their kids, their grandkids, and the near future. It's not just some thing that might happen, 50 years from now. I think a lot of people thought that might be the case, but it seems more and more like this is a near-term problem. And what does seem to bring people together is this real concern for the near future of humanity. And I think family is a big motivating factor in that. Tell us more about that, if you would, personally for you. Tell us about your family, about your kids, what they're doing, and how you guys are sort of, thinking about this future.
So my wife, met her at Texas A&M University. She's a registered pharmacist still in Texas, but I dragged her to California, gosh, 22 years ago. And I've got 3 daughters. So two of them engineers. I'll just bring up the fact that I got two engineer daughters. The third one working in finance in New York. Proud of all 3 of them. The first one is in the aerospace industry. She's actually working on electric airplanes, and very proud of what she's accomplished there. Second daughter, I'll just say it was take your dad to work day a few weeks ago for her. So I got to go watch my daughter be the officer of the deck on the USS Maine, a nuclear missile submarine. That's pretty mind-bending for a dad who taught her how to ride a bike and drive a car, to watch her in control of arguably one of the most powerful machines in human history. And I think there's a perception of people who are worried about a technology that they might be Luddites. I think I'm a pretty stark counterexample. I mean, Dad must have done a little bit of preaching about STEM careers, to have two out of 3 daughters become engineers. And I think, one just anecdote, I have a t-shirt that says Save Diablo. And if you live in the Bay Area, there's Mount Diablo. So one might think, oh, that's save this open space. No, the last nuclear power plant in California is Diablo Canyon. So I actually had a t-shirt. My daughters would, and maybe at the table I might have talked about the benefits of nuclear power to my daughters at some point. It's possible. And one of them joked, "Oh, we're a nuclear family." So I think it is important to know that people who have a concern about AI, I think those concerns often come from an understanding of the technology, and a respect for how powerful it could be if it continues on current trends. And it's almost, this is the one technology. There are 2 or 3 technologies that cause real concern because of their power, and this is one of them. And it's not, we're not a community of people who generally reject technology. And so I just think it's important to bust that myth.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that I've read quite a few papers, academic papers, articles from people who have had their hands on the technology, people who do have a PhD in machine learning, or, have worked, again, very intimately with AI. And so many of those people who are writing those papers, doing that research, understand it far better than I do. And even they say, we don't really fully understand how it works or what's going on in that black box. But many of those folks have grave concerns about the near future. And so it does seem like, it is this interesting mix of people, but, you don't have to have a STEM background to understand and be able to conceptualize what could happen, what could go wrong, right? I think plenty of people can kind of witness this from the outside and say, I see some alarming trends here. I'm listening to what people in industry are saying, some of whom want this AI to be developed extremely fast without any guardrails, some of whom want to pause it right now, right? But there seems like a growing consensus of people on both of those camps that say, well, this is a very powerful tool, very powerful thing that is different than anything before. So I want to ask you a little bit about the organization you work for, and then I want to get into some of those concerns specifically you may have on AI. But tell us about the AI Policy Network. Who are the folks involved? What are you guys trying to accomplish? What are some of the things that motivate the AIPN, and how do you guys think about this?
Yes, we're the AI Policy Network, and our founder and executive director is Daniel Colson. Our president of government affairs is Mark Beal, and also Daniel Eth is on the team, who heads our research and communications group. So I would describe us as a group of fully committed, individuals who understand that this technology is going to be one of the most important things to happen to our country. And we also, have a common conviction that there may be technical solutions to the alignment problem, but everyone we talk to has said these solutions need time to work. And that leads one to conclude that there have to be some policy solutions. Washington, potentially states need to provide sensible guardrails that are going to allow the alignment, solutions time to work. So we operate under that premise. And we have in our, we call ourselves a network because there's a group of what I would call informed individuals who have that as a core belief. In fact, they are willing to share their treasure, their hard-earned money, in some cases a dramatic fraction of their own wealth, in order to engage in the political process. And so part of what the AI Policy Network does is we run hard dollar fundraising campaigns that allow us to meet with members of Congress and to state the case in fairly, small settings. We're able to state the case and to open the eyes of Washington, D.C. I'm standing here in Berkeley, California. There's a lot of people who have pretty strong understanding and deep convictions about where AI is going and how big an impact it's going to have on the country. There's a chasm between here and Washington, D.C. There's a lack of understanding. There's an urgency where I'm standing. In D.C., there's a sort of, there's something happening, but there is not the sense of urgency there is here. So there are people in our network, most of them close to where I'm standing, who are like, no, Washington needs to wake up. So we're their organization who's helping articulate that case to Washington. So, if you want to know about kind of how we're formed, we've got a C3 organization called the AI Policy Institute. We run polls to show folks in Washington how voters and how constituents, how they feel about these issues. And most of their answers, by the way, are common sense. Of course, one should set up guardrails and not release technology that we do not know is going to be safe. So anyway, we've got the polling arm, we've got the political advocacy arm, or C4, and we've got a connected PAC under which we do these political fundraising. We're fully engaged to state the case, to try and help Washington understand what's going on.
Yeah, for those that have not had the opportunity to sit down with a member of Congress, or maybe even their staff, what are some takeaways that you can kind of share? Maybe not without naming names, but just what are some basic lessons learned that you could share with the people that care about this topic, things that are important for them to know about those conversations with members of Congress?
I think I'll say a few things. First of all, I'll make a couple of observations. Brennan, you've been in politics, in and around politics a lot longer than I have. So I just want to share a couple of things, maybe from a perspective of somebody who's only immersing in this world, in the last year or two. I'm going to say a couple of things that are a little contrarian. One thing I'll observe is I think there's a lot more. You might think politicians are mostly self-interested or they only care about getting reelected, but there is a genuine desire to do the right thing for the country. There's a genuine desire, I would also say, even to be collegial with some of their opponents on the other side of the aisle and figure out how to work together to accomplish the right thing. Not unlike, the rest of us, we have our everyday jobs, we have people that we work with. They have the same thing in their world, and they're trying to get things done. Yes, they come with a political perspective, but it's been kind of encouraging to me to see that they have by and large, they have the best interests of the country in mind, and they want to work with even the guys across the aisle in order to get things done. That's fraying on the edges, as you know, but by and large, it's there, and they do want to do the right thing. And they, in regards to AI, they have a lot of the reactions that normal people do. Yes, let's put guardrails in place. I will say right now, though, the largest voices are mostly industry. Like any money is concentrated in the companies that are making money from this technology, and it's a natural strategy of industry to try and limit regulation. Let us do our thing. And I said this to a group a few minutes ago on another call. Companies are going to play to the edge of the field, just like a soccer player is going to play to the very edge of the field. They're going to play to the edge of the rules. And companies are going to do that until guard rules are placed upon them. The problem is right now, because this is a new technology, there are no guardrails in place. And you have industry interests who'd rather it stay that way. And under the banner of Beat China and American innovation, they would rather there be no guardrails, and they are spending money. And that actually, you talk to politicians, they have to deal with that. I mean, if they want to get reelected, they have to deal with the fact that there's a ton of money pouring in on the other side of the equation, against regulation. So I think that's a takeaway as well, that forces are moving that would keep guardrails off of this. And the risk profiles of those people are just very different from you and me and normal American citizens. These guys, these organizations and the people behind them have a large potential payoff if these companies do as well as they could do. And we're already seeing this. The most valuable companies, private and public companies in the history of the planet, are in the AI business now. I mean, NVIDIA is the most valuable company in the history of mankind. And it's driven by AI. So there are big dollars involved, and those dollars do have an impact in Washington.
So, Jeff, you talked a lot about guardrails that you would like to see on these companies. So give us a few examples of what the AI Policy Network would like to see. What are some basic ideas that the people watching this who maybe aren't following this discussion closely could kind of read more about and learn more about, so they could get involved and support these guardrails?
We have a framework, and we want to make it memorable for those in Washington and also people who might support us. So protect, promote, and prepare. That's kind of how we organize the policies we think would make a difference in this space. So protect, a lot of that is about, frankly, export controls. So this is a very valuable technology. We question those who would want to provide it to U.S. adversaries. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is geopolitical. I mean, okay, we're Americans, and we want to protect American interests. We want to not provide technology, pivotal technology to our adversaries. But there's also an AI safety reason, which is if you're in a race with somebody and you're 1 inch ahead, you're going to keep racing. And your ability to roll out the technology is limited. You're going to just race. If you're a mile ahead of the competitor, you've got time to do this thoughtfully, release software, release technology thoughtfully. So there's some real race dynamics which get much worse if we're neck and neck with, our adversaries like China. And so we believe it's important to protect U.S. technology, and export controls are part of that. We come out pretty strongly against, the latest AI chips being sold to China. And that's a set of policies that we believe is important. Protecting the algorithms themselves, the biggest models out there are pretty portable. They have to run in large data centers, but the models themselves can fit on pretty small drives. And so therefore it is possible for others to get not only, our chips, but also the models themselves. So protecting is a big policy pillar. Another one is promoting. So it is important that, we believe that the U.S. style democracy is important. So we do want American industry to be dominant. We think there is a way to do that in a safe manner, but we are in line with promoting, the U.S. version of AI, and not some that might emerge from autocratic governments and economies. Finally, prepare. And this is where a lot of the we believe impactful safeguards can be put in place. So preparing the U.S. government for the advent of very powerful technology. Part of that is just giving a view of the government into the technology itself. So we believe there ought to be test and evaluation processes. So before a new model, GPT 6, 7, 8 get released, there's a set of tests that ought to go through that give our lawmakers, the U.S. government, a view into what those capabilities are. And we don't advocate that information ought to be released to the world so that private companies lose their competitive edge. We just want to make sure that there's a standard set of tests that are being applied as a condition of releasing that technology. So there's also preparing the government in case the worst starts happening, or cyber attacks. A lot of things driven by AI. That it's clear who's on first within the government, who has responsibility for responding to those. So those are some of the elements within prepare, but that's kind of the way we lay out our policies, and those are the types of things we're advocating for.
Jeff, what most concerns you about the rapid advancement of AI? In other words, what keeps you up at night?
So I think I'll just name a couple of three things. Number one, obviously, these technologies increase human productivity. A lot of people who listen to this will have used ChatGPT or Claude to do their work. Unfortunately, it's just going to make people who their job is hacking computer systems. It's going to make them more productive. The thing that's kind of probably really scary is it could make somebody who works on viruses. That's one of the things that actually Washington is a little more attuned to that risk than others, just because, probably we went through a pandemic not that long ago. People see that risk, and that's one of the things we've got to watch is whether or not bad actors use this technology in order to advance their ability to create bioweapons. So that's another one. I think there's going to be increasing pressure for militaries around the world, our adversaries, and even ourselves, to use AI to make more rapid decisions in the military. And if you find yourselves on your back foot because your opponent is making faster decisions, there's going to be a temptation to cede more and more control to AI, and to the point where if that climbs the whole ladder and gets all the way to the nuclear chain, I think that's a big risk that we've got to worry about. And there's any rational person, including our lawmakers, look at that and say, well, of course, we're not going to turn over control to AI that hallucinates. But if you feel like you're losing and behind and you're half as fast as your competitor, there's going to be an extreme temptation to go down that slippery slope. So those are two of the areas that I worry about. I think understanding that these systems are grown, they're not programmed, and that we really don't understand exactly how they work, and we do not know how to insert values into them. I think the ultimate worry is that we create something that is more intelligent than ourselves, and we do not, and it has goals different from ours. I mean, there's a fundamental argument here, which is just, humans are at the top of the heap, and it's not because we're stronger. It's not because we're bigger or faster. We're on the top of the heap because of our intelligence. And the next most intelligent creatures out there, whales, chimpanzees, whatever, they live and die based on what we decide to do with them. And that is very hard to wrap your mind around, that we may no longer be the top of the heap, and something else may be calling the shots. But we've obviously started to crack the code on how to build intelligence, and there is no clear indication of where that ceiling is. We do not know where that ceiling is. We're just stepping on the gas. So we may find ourselves with the alien in our midst who is smarter than us. We probably, if they were flying by us in a spacecraft, we probably wouldn't raise our hand and flag them down and say, hey, come on over here. We're doing that with AI. That's exactly what we're doing. So yeah, there's your short list of things to keep you up at night, Brendan.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Yeah, I think that one of the arguments that I've heard that really resonates with me is when you think about potentially the speed at which the advanced AI could be thinking, if you will, right, and reasoning, the just orders of magnitude faster than human beings. It would almost be like we're moving in slow motion compared to them. They're thinking, they're making decisions at such a rapid pace that we can't even comprehend how fast that would be. And so, yeah, it puts us at a great disadvantage if that does occur. So a lot to be worried about and concerned about. And obviously we want to get these safeguards in place, and we want to solve this alignment problem that you alluded to. Let's say we do that. Let's say we're able to kind of control AI, make it work for us. We're able to implement some of these safeguards. What is kind of a hopeful, optimistic take on a future where we have AI working for us? Like, what are some things that you're most excited about if this goes well for humanity?
I'll borrow a little bit from our friend Max Tegmark at FLI, who's a big player in the field of AI technology, as well as advocacy for making sure safety is considered. And he has a framework where AI technology, which is very specific and can be a tool in an area. So AlphaFold is an example of some AI technology, which was not general purpose, but it can, because of what it's been able to do to map proteins, it's a very useful technology, but it's not general purpose. So you're not going to create an AlphaFold, intelligence that's got a set of goals that get out of control. So there are specific areas and specific tools that if we do not engender, the reasoning capability, the broad problem solving capability, if we don't try and create an agent, that thinks in the way that a human does, there's a lot of potential. I mean, I wouldn't want to go to a doctor who was not using, if I needed an X-ray or another medical image, I would like some AI to be used to evaluate that image. There are narrow problems that can be solved with AI when you want the superhuman capability of this technology to be deployed, in a medical arena or other areas and have it solve a set of problems. It's the danger comes in when you mix in with that the generality of, it's superhuman in an area of technology, but it's also got general purpose goals. And then you put the pieces together, then you've created what is dangerous. But on the flip side, humans could do much better science with enhanced AI capabilities. So you can basically go down to any, material science is another one that's kind of ripe for advancement with AI. I think there are a lot of there is a positive future as long as we do not build the general purpose problem solving agents, the human like intelligence, as long as we don't go straight for that before we have solved the alignment problem. And I actually think that's a many year solution. And I think what we need to be doing is agreeing that we're not going to take that step until we've got assurances that we have solved that alignment problem. It's not unlike, someone building a bridge. They have to meet certain standards. You've got to prove the ability of that bridge or that airplane to operate safely before people fly on it or drive their car across it. And all we're doing is calling for the same thing with this technology.
Wise words from an engineer.
That's right.
Jeff Starr, thank you so much for all that you do at the AI Policy Network. Thank you to your colleagues as well. And we appreciate you being on the podcast and look forward to future conversations with you.
Well, thank you, Brendan, and thank you for your group and what you do. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, that's another episode of Secure AI Now, a podcast hosted by the Alliance for Secure AI. I'm CEO Brendan Steinhauser. Until next time.